Line 6 just had a huge event and they announced the release of the new Helix Stadium and Stadium XL. And as a Line 6 owner, user, and fanboy, I have some thoughts. And in today's video, we're gonna talk about it. So let's go. So the look of this video is a little different from what I usually do with my guitar wall background. Full disclosure, I'm actually renewing my passport and I'm just waiting for my passport photos. So I figured I'd be doing some waiting. I brought my camera. I got a coffee, which is a Tim Hortons dark roast, no sugar, 1 almond milk because it's summer and we're on the cuts. And I decided to just rattle off a casual video. And I have some notes and I'll try to stick to those notes, but I'll just basically want to give you my thoughts on this whole new Helix Stadium. My initial thought was, I'm not surprised and it's time. And what I mean by that is the original Helix was released, as we all know, in 2015. So it's been 10 years. And actually, when Line 6 announced this event like a couple weeks back, they kind of hinted at this, and all the nerds in the guitar community, such as myself, we all kind of had guessed that they were going to come up with or release a new product or announce the release of a new product. And so I wasn't surprised that there's a new product. If you think about it, Line 6 products are basically computers. And if you think about your computer, like if you have a MacBook or whatever, they're not really expected to last 10 years. And if they do, by that 10th year, they're usually slow and bogged down, and there's just like new operating systems and the hardware just isn't current to what the standards are for today. And that's exactly what I feel like with the Helix. Like I said, the Helix has been around for 10 years. And even though Line 6 is really good at updating the firmware and actually updating the engine, and I'll talk about this later on, but they've recently made it known that they've updated the engine at least 3 times in its lifespan. And so we've had basically 3 versions of the Helix, more if you count like the little updates. In that regard, a new piece of hardware with a new engine, with new capabilities and new technology and new AI features, it was coming. And I'm not mad at Line 6 for coming up with a new product. All right, my second thought of this whole thing is the price. The Stadium floor is coming in at around $1,800 US, and the Stadium XL, this thing looks huge, is coming in at around $2,200. And then there's also expression pedals, a backpack, different kind of stuff that's included. So basically $1,800 for the Stadium floor, $2,200 for the Stadium XL. Keep in mind, I'm in Canada, and for Canadians, if I add the 40 cents on the dollar, like exchange rate plus taxes, that Stadium XL is going to be close to $3,000. So my initial reaction is, as a working man musician who's been poor basically his entire career, I think this is super expensive. But as an entrepreneur and business owner, I get the price point. Line 6 has been around for 25 plus years and they've been successful, and they've been successful for a reason. And as a business owner, then you know what products are worth to make and to develop and to market. And there's a certain price point that they have to be sold at, or else you're not going to be profitable. And obviously Line 6 knows that price point, and that's why the price point is what it is. And if you think about the price point of the original Helix compared to its competitors like the Kemper, the Fractal, it was cheaper. And I feel like with this Stadium and Stadium XL, with this price point, I feel like Line 6 is finally saying to their competitors, hey, our product is just as good or is better than our competitors, and we have to price it at this. So in order for them to be competitive, you have to price it at this price point. Third thought on this whole thing, especially after watching the live stream, was there's kind of an elephant in the room in terms of its technology. Yes, they're talking about a new engine and new processors, new AI, everything is built from the ground up. But they didn't really mention anything about amp profiling or amp captures. Now, at this stage of the game, I would have expected Line 6 to include amp profiling and amp captures in this new piece of hardware. That way they could really compete with their competitors like the Kemper and the Quad Cortex and even Tone X. Now, I have a feeling, and this is just pure speculation on my end, I feel like the developers of Line 6 have thought about this and they've built the engine so well, and I hope I'm right when I say this, and I will make a future video about this now that I'm saying it, but I feel like the new engine is built so well and they've built space for an upgrade for later. And so I feel like this is going to be a huge upgrade down the line. Again, this is full speculation, but for now, with what we know, there's no amp profiling or no amp captures. But again, I think down the road, this engine is going to be built so well that they're going to have that as an update. Thought number 4, and this is for guys like myself and guys like you, HX Stomp dudes. Now, when the HX Stomp was released, I thought it was phenomenal. What Line 6 did was they took all the amazing features of the Helix, which was expensive and huge, and they brought it to a small platform. To me, they paid homage to the old school Bean and its functionality with the capability of having it in your pedal board with the foot switches. I thought it was phenomenal. I have a video about my pedal board which features the Line 6 HX Stomp. I'll link it right here, where I talk in depth about that pedal. And honestly, that pedal has been the backbone of my sound for almost 4 years that I've owned it. Selfishly, what I liked about this announcement is that they announced flagship models, huge floor models, and not a little compact models to replace the HX Stomp. If we look back, the HX Stomp was released in late 2018, early 2019. That's about 4 years after the original Helix. And so what I liked about this whole announcement is that they didn't release anything small to replace the HX Stomp. And if we think about the history of Line 6, maybe down the road, maybe in 2028, 29, they'll release a pedal platform similar to HX Stomp that will feature all the features of the new Stadium Helixes. And my final thought on the release of the Stadium is that Line 6 said in their live stream that they're not going to abandon the OG Helix. Before the live stream, I watched an interview with the engineers of the Helix, and they said that Well, in the lifespan of the Helix, like all the lines, they've upgraded not only the firmware, but basically the engine. So we've had at least 3 versions of the Helix. I thought that was such a cool thing for Line 6 to do and not make a big deal out of it. They just basically gave us all these cool updates. As a consumer, I love that so much. As a Helix user, as an HX Stomp user, I'm happy that they're not going to abandon us and they're just going to keep upgrading and updating that firmware, and we're not going to be obsolete. So thank you, Line 6, for thinking of us OG owners of the Helix. Again, I've been a huge fan and been loyal to Line 6 for 25 years, and I'm just happy that they're not going to abandon us, even though they have a new, shinier, better model. And that's it. Those are my initial thoughts on the new Line 6 Stadium and Stadium XL. If you're wondering if I'm going to be rushing in line to the store when they drop these, the answer is no. My workflow and my setup right now is just so good. I just finished an EP and I have an album releasing at the end of the year. And I'm so happy with my guitar tone right now that I just don't need any new thing. But I'm super stoked that Line 6 is going to be releasing this product, and I'm super stoked for the guitar community for having more options out there. I've said this in a few videos now, but it's just never been a better time to be a guitar player. We just have such an array of disposal, from expensive gear like this to cheap gear. And I think it's just fantastic that we have access to all this gear. If you like this video about the Line 6 Stadium, then you might like a video about the Behringer Quan. I made a video about that. I will link it right here. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. I gotta pick up my passport photos. Peace.